seems regardless of what we say, regardless of what the community wants, we end up in the same situation regardless. Time gating is such a frustrating thing to deal with, and Heresy had a ton of it. Now, I do think Heresy is a great piece of content, but it's not like the Red of the Nine. Heresy had a ton of content. It was so much more. You had Court of Blades, you had the Nether, you had exotic missions, or an exotic mission. But with Red of the Nine, it's quite literally just 3 dungeons that already exist in the game on a harder difficulty with wrinkles in each encounter, meaning they're just spiced up a tiny bit. It's nothing crazy. If you've ran these dungeons before, you're probably going to figure out how to solve these wrinkles pretty quickly, right? Or you just look up a guide, easy peasy. The hardest part, of course, is completing it on the ultimatum mode, which is as close to contests as you're ever going to get for these dungeons. But Bungie, of course, in typical Bungie fashion, instead of communicating with the community that this would be a super heavily time-gated event, they decided to keep it on the down low. They did apparently say something at a streamer tourney for Red of the Nine or something along those lines. But the point is, if you go back, watch the VOD for the Red of the Nine reveal or Red of the Nine information, whatever. I think it was in the Edge of Fate reveal that one of the devs said something, and it might have been Robbie Stevens, but he basically said that it would be 1 dungeon each week of the event, and clearly that's not the case.
So
You can see the Spire of the Watcher tower off in the distance.
Yeah.
That's indicating that during the week that we have this set for, Spire is the featured dungeon. So there's going to be one of these 3 dungeons featured during each week of the event on a sort of rolling basis. Okay.
We played the first week, and it was Spire of the Watcher, and you had quests for a couple of the weapons, and it seems as though what they're doing is you get 2 quests for the first week for 2 of the 4 weapons. The second week is a quest for 1 weapon, and then the 4th and final week of the dungeon is the final weapon, which is going to be the machine gun. So they're stretching out essentially a dungeon for 3 weeks. Now, a lot of people are going to make the comparison of Red of the Nine to Into the Light, because quite literally it's a pre-expansion event that is supposed to give players something to do before the new expansion. And the reason they have to stretch this out is because there's not a lot of content here, right? Again, these dungeons are things that most players have engaged with a ton. Sure, for the newer players, it's something new to engage with and maybe a little bit more exciting, but it's not like Into the Light where we had a whole new mode in Onslaught. We had Pantheon, which really was a lot more difficult than at least Spire of the Watcher Ultimatum is. We'll see how Ghost and Prophecy pans out, but honestly, it was just a much more fun activity because it was so much harder. And part of that is probably it's a 6-man activity, it's not a 3-man dungeon, and that plays a part into it, but that's not what we're here to talk about anyway. Point is, Into the Light had much more content, and so time getting it was much more reasonable because there was enough each week for you to do to quench your thirst for content. With Red of the Nine, there's literally nothing. We have the heavy metal event going on, which seems like FOMO in a box. Essentially, it's quite literally just do this event, or you're not going to get the Sparrow for a while, or you're going to have to pay for it, or whatever. And I love the idea of the event home. Everything's free. The execution is not great. And it's clear that this is a marketing tactic. This is a business thing. It isn't about the community. And the reason you're going to see probably a ton of videos on this, you've probably already seen your favorite content creators tweeting about it or making posts about it elsewhere. And the reason we're doing this is we want Bungie to see it. We want them to know our displeasure. And as of right now, they have said nothing about this discourse, this latest issue that the community has. And, the point is that this game isn't for them to just make as much money as possible. It's for the community to play, and without us, there is no Destiny 2. And I'm not saying they have to cater to our every whim, but what I mean by this is a business scheme. Stretching out the dungeon by 3 weeks means that this event is a 9-week event in total. So you have to play 9 weeks in a row to get the curated holofoil weapon to complete all the quests, and of course you have to play each version of the dungeon on Ultimatum and Eternity mode, get gold as well on each dungeon, and that gives you the title, the Seal Eternal, which is a cool name, but again, the execution is not good. But stretching it out 9 weeks means that it will end July 8th, which, funny enough, is a week before Edge of Fate. So that means that you have a reason to come back each week leading up until the Edge of Fate. And that's why it's to market the game to you. The more you're on the game over the course of the next couple of months, the more likely you are to spend money, the more likely you are to buy the expansion, and so on. Now, many people enjoy playing their content in a variety of ways. And, you know, we had the whole controversy in Revenant where we got the entirety of an act at the beginning of an act. We could play through all of it as fast or as slow as we wanted to, and the community didn't like that. I'm personally okay with whatever. That's my stance on it. But a lot of people are like, I'm gonna binge eat everything as soon as it comes out. I'm gonna binge this show, essentially. Whereas some people are like, I'm gonna watch an episode a night so that I can stretch it out a little bit, or maybe an episode every couple of days. And that's completely fine. But the big issue is that we don't have the choice of doing that. We don't have the ability to just do it all at once, or slowly pick away at the event if that's what we want to do. Now, obviously, the more casual player base, the people who don't have hours every day to play the game, are probably going to pick away at this event, whereas the streamers, the content creators, are going to play it all at once so they can create guides and give you pointers and tell you what weapons are good, what strategies are good for your runs. That way, when you go to do your runs, they save you time, right? That's usually how this stuff works. But instead, you know, everyone's just gonna have to wait. Bungie's really curbing the enthusiasm of the community and essentially slapping all the hype away from this event, and instead choosing to again have essentially a 9-week marketing campaign to ensure that people are playing every week, they get their metrics up, they hopefully get you to buy something in the store, or again, Edge of Fate. And it's really sad to see. And hopefully, with all of this backlash, they will decide to tone down the time gating, maybe release Ghosts to the Deep early, as well as Prophecy early, and maybe release the quests a little bit earlier. We did have backlash during Into the Light. I believe that initially in the reveal of Into the Light, it was only 1 weapon per week, but they decided to change it to 2 weapons per week when the community was like, yeah, this is ass, what are we doing here? And, you know, that was an example of us giving feedback, and Bungie was like, yeah, we're gonna change this. And I know it's probably the management, the C-suite people at Bungie who are like, yeah, this is what we're gonna do with the event. Maybe the devs don't have a choice in this, but again, the devs have the ability to communicate with us. And maybe they were told not to, I don't know. Whatever the case is, this reflects poorly on the entire company, and it's just another way Bungie has shot themselves in the foot. And you have this as well as the case against Bungie, which is pertaining to the Red War. There's someone who has a body of work, I think it's a book or a movie or something, that is allegedly similar to the campaign of Red War, has similar themes and whatever. It seems like the claims are mostly baseless. They're not in, they don't have any real gripe. But the problem for Bungie is they can't produce a real-time copy of the Red War campaign. So they have to rely on old videos to essentially adjudicate themselves from these claims, and they can't use that. It doesn't count. The judge basically threw that testimony out and said, yeah, these old videos don't count. It's like third-party shit. You're gonna have to go to trial on this, and we're gonna figure out if this is true or not. And whatever the case is, they completely deleted the Red War. They completely the coding is too old now for the Red War. They can't bring it up to date. They won't put it in the game. Whatever. It's again shooting themselves in the foot, and the whole concept of the vaulting is just silly to begin with, because you take stuff in and out of a vault, like our vault in game. You don't just put it in there and delete it. It's like a garbage disposal. That's what they should have called it, the Destiny garbage disposal. But anyway, this hopefully gets changed. Hopefully they sit down and they realize they made a mistake. They need the community behind them over the next couple of months for Edge of Fate to be successful, because again, we're getting into a cycle of just bad optics from the outside. Even if you were a teensy bit excited for Edge of Fate or Renegades, that might be a little bit tainted now by what's happening in game. And I know it's sad. Anyways, see ya.